In the previous episode, the students determined how much a person in the Caribbean has rotated after they have traveled 1,000 feet in a circular path. This made them question their answer to the original question in this lesson. Can you use the arc length to determine the angle of rotation? In this episode, they will revisit this question and think about what additional information they would need to determine the angle of rotation.
I want to hear what you're thinking because I still don't
Yeah.
understand.
Okay. Yeah, so you said that you had this thinking,
Yeah.
Claire,
Yeah.
and you thought maybe that might change your thinking about the first question.
Yeah. Because when we calculated just now with the last question that we did, we were able to calculate the degree of the turn after we figured out like the fraction of the circumference that we traveled. So technically speaking, you could find the angle of rotation by finding like the length of the arc,
Oh,
because that's what we just did. We would have to figure out like the fraction of that arc compared to the rest of the circumference, but you could
yeah.
theoretically find
you'd have to
the
know,
angle of rotation.
You'd have to know the radius too, right?
Yeah, you'd have to know the radius, and you'd have to know like the rest of the circumference at the bare minimum. But you could,
And then you could find
Yeah.
what fraction of it would this
Yeah.
is.
I see.
And
So if you
then-
knew the radius, could you find the full circumference?
Yeah.
So what would be the missing information here?
The radius.
I see.
yeah,
Do you agree with that? Or no?
because we don't know the radius here.
Mhm.
We just know the arc length, or I guess the missing piece could even just be as simple as the circumference.
I see.
Like if we're already given the circumference, we could
Then
still
yeah.
find the answer.
Uh-huh.
But now that we've like actually done it,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think I've changed my answer. I agree with that.
Oh, interesting.
You could find it.
Cool.
In this episode, the students revisited the original question of this lesson. Can you use arc length to determine the angle of rotation? They considered the various arc lengths that were presented and reflected on what they would need to know to determine the angle of rotation. Claire pointed out that if they knew the radii of the circles, they could find their circumferences. Once they knew their circumferences, they could see what fraction the arc length was of the total circumference. This would tell them what fraction of a full rotation was made. In the next episode, they consider how they can use these ideas to define a new unit by which to measure angles, radians.